Young crowds, enthusiastic crowds, people stopped us at UC Davis yesterday, excited that you were being here. Why do you resonate so well with young people?
I think they realize what they're inheriting, what they're getting from the older generation: debt, big government, invasion of their privacy, wars that never end, a Federal Reserve that seems to take care of special interest groups. And they're not confident, and they don't trust the government. They don't think they're hearing the truth.
And when you see, again, a sea of young faces that are enthusiastic, does this mean that there's kind of regeneration in the Republican Party, or are they likely to leave the party later on?
I think it's up for grabs. I think the Republican Party sent a signal out that there's an open door and we want to build the party. And yet, many times when some of our supporters go to conventions, they get closed out. They don't want them there, and they'll even change the rules to exclude them. So it's a fight going on, a determination of our supporters and the believers in limited government versus the old liners that don't like to give up their prerogatives and their control of the party. But there's a large number of people that are unidentified, independents, and the young people. And, of course, we're working within the Republican Party, but we want to change some of the beliefs. We actually believe in cutting spending, we believe we should do some of the things that we've talked about for decades, shrinking the size of government and not running up these deficits. So that's the big difference.
Okay. I have to ask you the obvious question, that is, as the campaign continues, what's your strategy for continuing at this point with Romney, about roughly 300 away from getting enough votes for nomination?
Well, to continue to do what we're doing, because we have two strategies. One, to seek a goal, which has been and will continue to be, to get the most number of delegates and see how things come out, but also to change things, change people's minds, and change people's attitudes, and appeal to the hearts and minds of people so that they really believe in something. We want to change the status quo. We want to change the foreign policy. We want to change the monetary policy. We want a balanced budget, and we want personal liberties protected. So that's where we really believe we're winning. Not only are we going to have a lot more delegates than the people realize, but we're also in positions now where we're winning chairmanships of the state parties and county parties, and a lot of people are getting elected to lower offices too.
Yeah. And how do you determine, or what do you call your message and your movement? I know some call it Tea Party, some call it conservative. What do you call it?
I call it a freedom movement, although it was during our campaign 4 years ago that the Tea Party movement sort of broke loose. It's amorphous. It's too spread out, and so it doesn't, although we work very closely with the Tea Party people, we actually identify and work with some of the complaints that the Occupy people complain about too, special interests, the bailouts. So I call it a freedom movement. That's what we refer to, and the movement itself is to many a revolutionary thing, an intellectual revolution on the ideas of what the role of government ought to be.
Okay, last question, I'll make it real quick. Will you be a candidate all the way until the convention?
Oh, well, that remains to be seen. It depends on how things work out. I mean, I think that the delegates that have been working their way through, and there's still a lot to be counted, and this is where we're surprising a lot of people. Sure, we're going to work all the way through and keep the delegates and have a presence at the convention. That seems to be what politics is all about.
Commitment 2012 coverage for you right now. And Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul is at UC Davis tonight, but it wasn't his first stop in the area. KCRA 3's Tom Duhane got an exclusive interview with Ron Paul about his role in the race to the White House. Tom?
And you're going to see that in just a moment. First, let me show you what's happening here on the West Quad, where a platform is set for a Ron Paul speech coming up in a couple of hours. Many students already gathering to get a good spot to get a look at him. Paul says today he's already winning by pushing his libertarian agenda. He calls the Freedom Campaign to the forefront to impact the Republican Party. It's a message well received by young people, as we saw earlier today in Rancho Cordova. Supporters greeting Ron Paul at a campaign luncheon.
Thank you for coming.
For $350, each person got to shake hands with the presidential candidate from Texas and have a picture taken.
It was great. I got to take 3 pictures, actually.
It's probably one of my best experiences in my life so far.
It was great. It was great. Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
The crowd of 100 people was noticeably young, mostly in their 30s and 40s. Paul's fundraising speeches are closed to the media, but the candidate did give KCRA3 News an exclusive interview. Why does this 76-year-old congressman connect so well with youth?
I think they realize what they're inheriting, what they're getting from the older generation: debt, big government, invasion of their privacy, wars that never end.
He's hit a lot of the messages that appeals to the youth, the war message or anti-war message.
I feel like my future will be protected with Ron Paul, and I don't feel like the other ones really have much of a concern.
Although Mitt Romney nearly has the Republican nomination sewn up, Paul says he's staying in the race to influence the party.
Appeal to the hearts and minds of people so they really believe in something. We want to change the status quo. We want to change the foreign policy. We want to change the monetary policy. We want a balanced budget, and we want personal liberties protected.
And back live to the UCD campus, where supporters are setting up signs in advance of the rally here, which they hope will attract at least a few or several hundred students from the campus, large residence campus here of nearly 25,000 to 30,000. They're hoping to get a good crowd. By the way, the speech here is at 7 o'clock tonight. It is open to the public, the Memorial Union West Quad, and he starts at 7 o'clock. Reporting live at UC Davis, Tom Duhane, KCRA3 reports.
All right, Tom.
Hundreds of people gathered on the quad tonight at UC Davis to listen to presidential candidate Ron Paul. The Republicans' campaign message of small government and liberty was welcomed by a lot of area residents.
The revolution is alive and well at UC Davis. The fruits of our labors are ours and not the government's.
Ron Paul spoke for nearly an hour tonight, criticizing the Federal Reserve, our involvement in wars overseas, and current drug laws, while at the same time promising to repeal the Patriot Act if elected. Many people say they were not surprised that the congressman from Texas drew a large crowd.
No, it honestly doesn't, because a lot of the people I talk to say, hey, I'm going to either vote for Ron Paul if he's up or Obama. And that surprises me that they would say that. They would put Obama and Ron Paul because they seem polar opposites to me.
Especially because of what's been going on with UC Davis. I think it's a very well move on his part to represent the students, come and speak to the students hand in hand. So, yeah, it was nice.
The American people.
Ron Paul has been speaking at several California campuses lately, most recently at UC Berkeley and CSU Chico.
Campaign 2012 brought Ron Paul to Northern California. Tonight he made a stop at UC Davis.
It's a beautiful campus, but you know what else I noticed? You have more bicycles than anybody else.
Well, he did notice what we've known for quite some time. Republican contender says he will stay in the race right till the end. Let's go to Steve Large. He's live at UC Davis with what Paul has to say and why he is so popular with the college crowd. Steve?
Well, the stage is empty now, but Ron Paul was here a couple hours ago speaking for about an hour to a crowd estimated at about 5,000 on a spot that has seen national attention before. He may not have planned it this way. The thousands who came to see Ron Paul, some even perched in trees, came to the same quad where the campus police pepper sprayed protesters last November. A coincidence not lost on this Paul supporter.
He's the one that's been talking about the growing police state of our country.
Paul told me he doesn't recall seeing that video.
I don't know what the circumstances were there, but we should always lean toward the side of maximum amount of freedom of speech.
Paul did speak out against another headline-grabbing case this week. Federal officers detaining, then leaving a San Diego student alone in a cell for 5 days.
The DEA arresting college students and throw him in a cell and forgetting about him.
This lone Republican presidential candidate challenging Mitt Romney has only a fraction of the delegates and cash on hand.
How do you campaign when you have an opponent right now who's known to have quite a bit of money?
You win the hearts and minds of people and get the enthusiasm.
This Republican from Texas running on less government and more personal liberties, campaigning on college campuses in California. And the crowds are coming to see him.
He is much more interesting, I would say, than the rest, and his views. Nobody else has those kind of views.
Ron Paul told me he keeps coming to college campuses because they keep inviting him. A signature drive of roughly 500 got him here. He's already on a plane on the way to San Diego to speak at UC San Diego tomorrow.
There's nothing to think that he's not going to keep going right up to the convention.